All right, we are going to learn a little bit about variables today. So we're going to compare independent and dependent variables. So on your note sheet, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to either insert a table or create a t-chart. Either works, depending on if you are writing your notes online or on paper. So we need a 2x6 table. Okay, so at the top, we are going to write independent variable and dependent variable. So these are the two that we are comparing. Okay, so independent variables, they are the ones that the scientist controls. So they are what I, as a scientist, does. What I do, okay? So what I do as a scientist. The dependent variable is what happens at the end, okay? Another way to think about that is the independent variable is the cause. The dependent variable, on the other hand, is the effect. Okay, independent variable is the input. Dependent variable is the output. Independent variable is what happens before you do the experiment, and the dependent variable is what you measure after, what happens after. When you're graphing, the independent variable goes on the x-axis. Okay. And the dependent variable, so that's the, sorry, I should say horizontal line. And the dependent variable gets graphed on the y-axis. And that is the vertical line. Okay, so independent and dependent variable. When you're doing a experiment, setting up an experiment, you have two groups. Okay, so a good experiment is going to have the group that receives the test, and they are going to be called the test group. Then you have the group that does not receive the test, okay, and they're used as a control or comparison, and we call them the control group. Now, when you're setting up a graph, okay, so you guys can draw this if you're doing this online. You can insert a drawing. All right, so in my drawing, I'm going to create a graph. So I'm going to create a line here. Make it a little bit thicker. Do that again, going the other way. Okay, so in my graph, we said the independent variable is always on the horizontal line or the x-axis. So that is going to be, we're going to type that there. We have the independent variable. All right, and the dependent variable always goes on the y-axis. So this is the dependent variable. So when you're reading a graph, you know that the independent and dependent always go on the same axis, so you can interpret what the graph is saying. That is it for variables. Please copy all of this information down in your notes.